All right, fellas, we're just about 24 hours away from the Cincinnati Bengals going on the clock and kicking off the 2020 NFL Draft. Over the last few weeks, we've gone division by division, breaking down the needs and possible picks by each team. So tonight, we're going to wrap it up with a Q&A session, going over some final points about the draft. We've got them lined up, guys, and Drink, we'll start with you with number one,
All
which
right.
is, given the uncertainty of this draft amid the coronavirus issue, do you think we're in more of a surprising draft with more trades and reaches, or perhaps a safer draft that goes kind of down the big boards?
I think we're in for a safer draft. I think the virtual aspect of this draft is the only the problem with it is I think it only affects the injured players and the players that went to smaller schools that's a little unknown. But as far as the Division One players, the high drafts, the Joe Burrows, the Chase Youngs, the Jeff Okudas, I don't think it affects any of them at all. So yeah, just I don't think it's much of a difference, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be a big effect at all. I mean, you got to think about it in the normal draft world. You know, the trades and negotiations that we see taking. It's not like you got general managers, 32 general managers sitting together in one room, just yelling it back and
Mm-hmm.
forth at each other. You know, all this is done, you know, over the phone and such. So that's not going to change. It's just going to make it a different television experience that we're just going to see Roger Goodell alone in his basement. And fortunately for him, he won't hear the boos that he normally does.
Well, that's good for him. And yeah, I kind of agree for the most part. I think we could see a little bit more just because teams are watching more film and they're not so much getting into the visits and stuff. But I think it'll mostly affect the mid rounds, if any. All right, guys. So going to number two, Jay. After our 4 day one quarterbacks of Burrow, Tua, Herbert, and Love, which 2-3 day developmental quarterback could be this year's late round steal?
Yeah, there's quite a few that I think we like. I think Jake Fromm and Jacob Eason are interesting, but I'm gonna go with Jalen Hurts out of Oklahoma, and we see him at Alabama as well. I think with the the more success that mobile quarterbacks have had, including the just breakout season for Lamar Jackson last season, it should give teams more incentive to give guys like Jalen Hurts, and I'm going to throw this guy in there, perhaps a Bryce Perkins out of Virginia, give these guys a chance. And I think we've seen enough Russell Wilsons and Lamar Jacksons have success in the NFL that if you implement a system that goes with their skill sets, and you're not just a static and rigid Jay Gruden type of dude, that you can make these things work. So I look at Jalen Hurts, and I'm not sure the Saints go this way, but Sean Payton's a smart guy, and I think he's a guy that can transition from a pocket style offense to a style of offense that would perhaps fit the skill set of a Jalen Hurts. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah. Jay just mentioned this guy, but I'm gonna go with Jake Fromm out of Georgia because we need to remember at the beginning of the season he was virtually a first round pick, but due to injuries to his wide receiver core, not so impressive numbers. He'd have slid down to a day 3, day 4 guy, but I do still think he a day 1, day 2 guy.
All right, I think James Morgan's a guy from FIU that could be like that. I like his arm. I like his kind of size, and I think we can shake the small school sort of vibe about him. He might be a guy that later in the draft you can get and still have a good quarterback. All right, guy. Drink. Boom or bust is a common term we use to describe a lot of prospects in each draft. Which potential first rounder has that largest range between boom and bust to them?
With the boom aspect, I went with Chase Young due to the fact that he's going to a team that, the Redskins already have a pretty good defensive line already. So I don't think the pressure on him would be as, much as some of the other first round picks or the top 10 picks, how you want to look at it. I kind of equate it to the same situation that Nick Bosa went into with the 49ers, where he's another good top, 5 pick going into a good position. So I went with him for the boom.
Yeah, I'm at as far as boomer bust guys. I think Tua is a guy that I look at. I could see him being a perennial Pro Bowler, but given the health concerns that that a lot of teams are talking about, you could see his health making him a potential bust. I'm also looking at one of the top 4 offensive tackles we've referenced frequently in Mekhi Becton. 6'7", 370. I think there's a lot to like about his game, but when a guy is that size and you talk about dropping back in pass protection, I think there is some concern about smaller edge rushers being able to duck down and get underneath him consistently. So I think that's something that you got to be concerned about for him.
Yeah, as far as these guys go, I hate to mention it because I churched up Isaiah Simmons so much, but he does strike me as a guy that has a lot of boom or bust to him because I feel like if he gets in the wrong system or tries to maybe do too much, they use him in too many different ways, and you can't like focus on a position, that he could actually wind up being sort of maybe a Jabril Peppers like 2.0 sort of guy, but hopefully not. But that's the guy I kind of feel like that has that range to him. All right, Jay, which team is most likely to blow it, and which team is most likely to nail it tomorrow night?
Yeah, I don't really have any concrete evidence to this blow it prediction, but the Jacksonville Jaguars, they're just a mess structurally. And I know Dave Caldwell, you can stop with the shirt nonsense. Let's get real. Just go jump in a pool. You've got one at the stadium. Listen, I understand. Dave Caldwell's done some good stuff. He's capable of drafting some guys. So, I mean, I guess they could do okay, but in the grand scheme of things, it's going to add up to about 4 or 5 wins. So that's my blowout aspect. Maybe not in the draft, but it'll eventually they'll find a way. And then for a team that's going to get it absolutely right, I'm looking at the New England Patriots. I think Bill Belichick walks into this draft with a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. The whole conversation of, can Belichick win without Brady and vice versa. I think we're going to see. I think Bill Belichick and the stockpiling of draft picks, I think we're in for something big, and I think he's going to hit on a lot of picks. He's going to fill a lot of the needs they have in this draft. And listen, they have so many picks, and they can also be looking towards next year. If they don't see a quarterback they want in this draft, they could just be building a stockpile thing for a big run back at the thing next season, similar to what it appears Miami did last year, and we'll see what they do this year.
Yeah, I went with the Giants to blow it. Listen, Gettleman, the GM up there, man, this guy just out here doing whatever he want to do. It don't seem like his job ever going to be in jeopardy. He just out here picking players. Honestly, I see him doing one or two things. Either A, he's going to keep the 4th pick and pick a position he don't even need, or B, he's going to trade back so far he's going to miss out on a position that he need, and it don't matter because he's going to keep his job. As far as nailing it, I'm looking at the Carolina Panthers. We have to remember this. That head coach and that offense coordinator just came from college. A lot of these kids that they're going to be evaluating, they either seen or they played against. So they would know just as much as any scout what to look for with these players. So they got to account for something in my book.
Yeah, I think as far as the teams that are most likely to nail it, I look at the Dolphins, and I think they're really going to hit a home run here. I think that they're there's a lot of pre-draft Tua smoke screens. Maybe they're going to kind of sort through it. They're going to go get him at number 5, and then they're going to come back and get him a lot of help, either along the offensive line, the wide receiver position, etc. Maybe they'll get a running back in the end of the first round. But I think they're going to really spend those first round picks smart, and they're going to come out much better than they were before this draft. And the team most likely to blow it, I'm kind of looking at the Raiders as a possibility because I just don't know. I feel like Gruden and company are kind of going to be set on a quarterback. No Derek Carr, no Mariota after 2020. And I think they're going to have to maybe reach for someone like Jordan Love, or maybe reach into the 2nd and 3rd round guys and try to force them into a starting role after next year. And I don't know how well it's going to work out. And I also can maybe see San Francisco because they don't have any picks after that first round, and they might fall in love with wide receivers and corners, and they may forget to address the trenches and then kind of stumble out down the road. And they look back on this draft and go, oh man, we kind of messed it up a little bit. All right, Drink, last one. Last year, we had some surprises at the top of the first round. We saw Oakland go at Cleveland Farrell, and the Giants put all their money on Daniel Jones. So what's the single most surprising trade and or pick we see tomorrow night?
I didn't go with a specific team. I kind of went with 2 draft positions. I think one surprise I'm looking at if we get a receiver drafted in the top 10. I know we really deep in the wide receiver position, but if one goes in the top 10, I'll be very, very, very surprised. And then my other one is if all 4 offensive tackles go in the top 10. I know these guys been talked about a lot. Most drafts that I see at least 3 of them in the top 10, not all 4 of them. But hey, you never know. As teams trade and move up and move back, it's a possibility. But those are the 2 surprises I'm looking out for.
Yeah, I'm looking at and it's funny that you mentioned this in the last question, but I'm looking at the Oakland Raiders, and I think we could see them take Jordan Love with that 12th overall pick. I think much has been made of the John Gruden Derek Carr relationship. It feels like ever since John Gruden took that job, and I referenced this before, ever since that one really, really good season where Derek Carr led them to the playoffs. I mean, there hasn't been another step of progression that we've really seen. So I can see the Oakland Raiders making that type of move. And here's one. This this surprise has no analytic value at all. But wouldn't it be pretty cool if the Jacksonville Jaguars found a way to get CeeDee Lamb? Because I think we can all agree that it'd be cool to watch a team, even if it's the Jaguars, have a two wide receivers named CeeDee and DD.
Your former teammates. How about that?
That too.
Yeah, would be fun. I'd be all about CeeDee Lamb, but yeah, I think my biggest surprise for the night is going to be the Detroit Lions. I think they're going to either trade the third overall pick or they're going to take a quarterback. Not all of it's going to be Tua or if it's going to be Herbert. I just said the Dolphins, which who I'd expect to get him at 5, but I'd tell you Detroit might be ready to shock somebody, and if they trade that pick and then a quarterback goes, that's going to push Okudah down the board, and then that's going to have a domino effect with a bunch of the teams suddenly going, oh crap, there's this guy we didn't think we were going to be there, because we know every year that happens. Some guy falls a little bit into your lap. So I think this year the Lions might shock a lot of people, but we'll see.